This episode of Terrible Writing Advice is sponsored by Freedom, but mostly by Campfire Blaze.
I wonder what topic I should cover this time. JP, you should cover writing fanfiction original characters. Wow, it's JC. He's an original character who just came out of nowhere with little to no explanation. He is so cool, and his idea to cover writing original characters in fanfiction is just awesome. For those unfamiliar with the concept, original characters, often shortened to OCs, is a term used in fanfiction circles when a fanfiction writer creates their own original character for an existing work. Now, in original fiction, we just call these characters because, they're all OCs technically. But adding new characters to an existing work can be hazardous, especially when audiences who typically consume fanfiction tend to have certain expectations about the story in terms of tone, characterization, and style. And prepare to have those expectations blown because I am super all about style. I couldn't have said it better myself, JC. Well, actually I could have, but for some reason I will just let you one-up me for no reason. Man, I just can't get over how cool JC is. Now we set out to write our amazing fanfiction original character. The first thing our original character needs is to be a stand-in for the writer. My original character is an idealized version of myself because I am like super ideal or something. JC just stole my joke and botched the delivery. Isn't he so cool? That's right, JC. Much like your two best friends getting a messy divorce, the best thing to do is to insert yourself right in the middle of everything. In this case, when I design my original character, not only will I project myself onto them way more than is healthy, I will also just keep designing them until they are overflowing with superfluous details. Will this clash with the design of the canon characters? That's the point. I want my original character to be even more special than the canon characters. Focusing on the self-insert wish fulfillment aspect of the original character also frees up the writer from worrying about that pesky audience expectation problem. Yes, the focus on the original character basically reduces the story's target audience to 1, but I'm sure if everyone just gives my OC a chance, they will become just as invested in this really long list of powers and abilities that I call a character. But remember, powers and abilities are a great substitute for things like motive, characterization, character development, expressing emotions other than lust, relatability, empathy, compelling internal conflict, compelling external conflict, wants, needs, and believability. And if anyone complains about the character, then just cudgel them with the original character's overly long backstory that completely justifies my long list of superpowers. You know what they say, it's not an OC unless it's OP. Now, they say write what you know and draw upon personal experiences. Since all I know is how to be an emotionally stunted shut-in whose understanding of basic human interaction comes mostly from watching anime, I think I'll write that. When designing an original character, just remember that people don't read fanfics to see the further adventures of their favorite characters, explore alternate diverging scenarios of the main plot, peering into the events before or after the canon plot, or even just to see two characters they like smooch. No, everyone is just waiting in breathless anticipation for my original character to come along and upstage their favorite characters. But what if someone complains that they won't even read your fanfic because it revolves around an overpowered original character? Well, in that case, we can also just take an existing background character and make them the original character instead. This once-bit player now has all of the abilities and powers and backstories of my original character, like a blank canvas that I've vomited all over. But technically isn't an original character, thus invalidating all criticism of naysayers. Perfect. No one will see through that. What about designing the original character to explore a little-known part of the original fiction that would be out of character for the canon characters to explore? That won't work because it requires too much work. Also, it would undermine my original objective of turning all of the canon characters into passive observers in their own story. What about using original characters to fill in a support role? And have my original characters serve the story rather than the other way around? Nothing will stop me from turning the canon characters into props to facilitate my original character's wish fulfillment power trip. Wait, the design of my original character might lead to someone accusing them of being a Mary Sue. Now, one shouldn't worry about having their character be called a Mary Sue, as that is 100% going to happen since the term Mary Sue has been watered down to mean character I don't like. For those who don't know what a Mary Sue is, it's a term that originated from a Star Trek fanfiction story that parodied the trend of overly perfect original characters. A Mary Sue is basically a character that usually has no flaws, is overpowered, and is the center of attention. Basically, a character that damages a story because of harmful authorial bias towards said character. Now, the line between compelling character and Mary Sue can become blurry at times and contentious within fan communities, but I will always advocate blatantly crossing that line and leaving no doubt as to my original character's Sue-ness. Remember, when in doubt, indulge. If a fanfic writer really does want to avoid writing a Mary Sue, then they should just do the opposite and make a horrible character that is ugly, ineffectual, flawed beyond the point of being able to function in any capacity, and yet still inexplicably the center of the universe. That'll put those Mary Sue accusers in their place, and I'll be riding high right over the point they were trying to make. Showed them. Besides, my character can't be a Mary Sue because she suffers from horrible anguish, the suffering she must endure as melodramatically as possible.
Mary Sues are good, just like suddenly changing topics.
JC just completely mangled my smooth segue between topics. And I'm completely fine with that for some reason. Now, how to introduce my original character in my fanfic? Thinking up an explanation or creating a decent character entrance is really hard. I got it. I just won't. My original character just shows up out of nowhere, attached to the main characters like a parasitic leech sucking the plot dry of its lifeblood until the canon story shrivels and dies. Does the fanfiction follow the events of the canon story? Well, now my original character can resolve the core conflict even better than the cast of the original plot. Won't relegating the entire cast into cheering sycophants who do nothing but praise, emotionally support, and or lust after my original character turn people off who can't project onto the character? Don't be silly. Why would anyone be turned off by my act of self-pleasuring in fanfiction form? Just so long as the writer avoids the pitfall of using their original character to show the events of the story from a different and unique perspective. Also, avoid using original characters to generate conflict that the original canon work didn't have the time or scope to focus on. These will mire the fanfiction in needless detail and delay my impulsive self-gratification. We're not here to strategically break the canon for the sake of the story, but rather to break the story for the sake of the original character.
Almost a good point, JP, but you didn't cover shipping.
JC just brought up a massive topic that will probably be covered in another video, but if I tried to cover it in this one, I couldn't explore it in enough detail to do the subject justice. I just love how he breaks the flow and brings the video to a screeching halt with his pointless asides. Speaking of pointless, what actions can a fanfiction writer take to silence those naysayers who dare give my fanfic the ultimate bad rating? A lukewarm review. Obviously, a writer should behave the same way professional writers deal with criticism. By starting a fight with their critics, of course, because endless internet arguments is the most productive use of time. If readers are complaining that the story's original character is a blatant self-insert Mary Sue, then there's only one thing to do. Add more of them. If one overpowered self-insert original character is good, then 100 more is even better. In fact, the lack of a solid core character means that these kinds of original characters can be easily mass-produced with only slight variations to their powers and abilities. One Mary Sue is usually terminal for a story, but I'm pretty sure 100 Mary Sues counts as a war crime. And there is nothing anyone can do to stop that many Sues. By embracing Mary Sue, you become invincible. Laugh at the frail writers who are too weak and frightened to embrace their true passions and indulge in unrestrained wish fulfillment. Now, what if a fanfiction writer wishes to fix their original character to not be a Mary Sue? How can that be done? Is there any way to do that?
My presence in this video only highlights how cool I am.
JC, you're right. Even though your lines are poorly written, you have no place in the canon, and I just put up with you for some reason. You deserve a reward.
I do?
You do. Follow me, JC.
Wow, I've never been behind your shed before, JP.
Now, where was I? Oh yes, there is no easy way to fix a Mary Sue original character that I know of or may have just inadvertently demonstrated. Better to become invested in a stillborn fanfic rather than see it as a stepping stone on one's writer's journey, admitting to lessons learned and moving on to better projects. The harder method is to ask, what does this character add to the story? What is this character's core motive? Does this character generate any form of compelling conflict? Am I pushing my original character hard enough, or am I stifling conflict and killing off narrative tension? Am I hurting the story by focusing too much on a single character at the expense of the rest of the cast, or the flow of the narrative? Are the scenes that feature my original character there just because I think they're cute and not because they advance the plot, characterize one or more characters, and explore the setting? Preferably the scenes should pull double duty by doing more than one. There isn't any time to answer these difficult questions because a fanfiction writer has an even more dire threat that must be thwarted: people stealing my totally original character. Why, my unholy abomination crafted from various pop culture works is clearly worth hundreds of billions of dollars if I could ever get the franchise rights. And any minute, I'm sure all of these massive corporations that own those franchises will be willing to navigate the legal labyrinth required to make this unfocused mess of a crossover a reality. Clearly, huge corporations will be willing to take a multi-billion-dollar gamble on some dude with a fanfiction.net account. But if someone does steal my totally original character designed for a franchise I don't own the rights to, not only will I miss out on those billions of potential dollars, but something even worse might happen. Someone else may get those precious likes, upvotes, and positive reviews. Fake internet points are worth way more than actual money because internet fame is an end in and of itself. Besides, if none of that works, then we can always just change the names of everything and publish it as an original story, Ship of Theseus style. Is this creatively bankrupt? I don't know, but it sure doesn't lead to financial bankruptcy.
You should join La Resistance.
For the last time, it's Rebel Freedom Force. No, it's Freedom Fighters. Wait, didn't the evil empire wipe you guys out in the villains episode?
Freedom is eternal. It can never die because ideas are bulletproof.
Also, JP is terrible at continuity.
He's as bad as you are at naming our organization. I keep telling you, La Resistance is too generic. That Rebel Freedom Force isn't.
Listen, I've crushed a lot of rebels in my time, and I gotta say, all three of those really don't work for me. Give me a group with a cool name to slaughter, like the Storm Guards, or the Order of the Tim Blades, or the Vigil Wardens.
Those sound kind of cool.
Or just anything that has more of a theme than just generic rebels. I mean, what's your hook?
We will overthrow the evil empire, restore the Republic, and bring peace to the galaxy. Once the evil empire is vanquished and we have restored a just and democratic government, with us as the only political party, of course, we will then become the enforcers of this peace, and we will rename ourselves to the Resistance.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to workshop that a little bit.
I like you. You should escape with us.
No, those are bad guys. We're good guys who do good guy things, like fire rockets at a maternity ward. It was an Imperial maternity ward. Well, we did also kind of blow up that orphanage, too. For freedom, of course.
You know, I kind of like these guys. Sure, why not? Today has been eye-opening for me. Maybe it's time to see what things look like from the other side. So, how do we escape?
While the Emperor was gloating, we pickpocketed this video's sponsor, Campfire Blaze.
Campfire Blaze is a browser-based writing organizational tool to help novel writers, screenwriters, dungeon masters, and resistance organizations to keep organized with plots and timelines, to help keep track of the story's flow. Even cell-based rebels, and I suppose normal users as well, can collaborate and coordinate in real time for cooperative projects like for tabletop gaming, multi-author books, or fanfic shared universes. It has a host of other tools useful to any freedom fighter, like a word processor, character sheets, character arcs, relationship details, and even tools to flesh out magic systems, languages, and artifacts. Try the free version or build your own subscription by choosing only the modules you'll need by going to bit.ly/TWA2-21. TWA fans can also use the coupon code TWA21 at checkout to receive 20% off of all lifetime purchases of Blaze modules. Link is in the description below.
But we are going to use it by going to the location tab of the world-building module and loading up the sewers. See? Freedom! I mean, once we get through the sewer level.
There's always a sewer level. Now we just need to hijack your ship and we're out of here.
No. First we find out the source of the sponsorships that the Emperor talked about. For freedom. Did I do it right?